In 1992, John Travolta was flying his private jet when all of a sudden everything went dark. Total electrical failure. No lights, no radio, nothing for a really long distance. At 33,000 feet above ground, it was just him and a jet diving nose first toward hellfire. With his instincts kicking in like a police search dog, he managed to land the plane. Now, while he was lucky with landing the plane, we can't say the same for a lot of his cars and planes. So, from his Rolls Royces to the private jets he owns, let's check out every engine John Travolta owns and probably has crashed. Long before he became a pro at landing Boeing jets blindly, John was rolling in style, literally. Let's start off with his Rolls-Royce Phantom, the one car that resembles his Bombardier Challenger. Now the Phantom is what we might call the king of luxury sedans. Trust me, even a toddler cannot mistake that royal front grille. Before we go on, please give us a like and hit the subscribe button. Also comment on the celebrity's garage you want us to do next. For engine, the Phantom, John's Phantom, uses a 6.75-liter V12 that produces around 563 horsepower and 664 pound-feet of torque. For a 5,600-pound car, that might just be enough output to keep it floating. Interestingly, the car's air suspension literally scans the road in front and adjusts the car in real time to keep it from hitting any bump or holes. Now, compared to your everyday Rolls-Royce, Travolta's Phantom is probably custom built to his liking. Considering he's an airplane guy, you might guess that he gave the car an aircraft makeover. Probably even enhanced the fiber optic starlight roof lining to look like the stars. Add in a couple of upgraded audio settings, maybe a custom badging like his initials JT, and advanced navigation system. So, how much does a Rolls-Royce Phantom cost? Well, a standard Phantom starts at around $500,000. But with the kind of customization Travolta went for, it could easily push past $700,000 or more. For an aircraft the size of a Rolls-Royce, it's definitely a real crazy price. And believe me, his garage gets even crazier from here. Once in 2012, John Travolta pulled up to the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance car show in a Mercedes-Benz Gullwing. Now, of course, paparazzi didn't let us hear the end of it, with everyone gushing at the car's beauty. But what's so fun about this car? Well, it wouldn't be too crazy to say that the original 300 SL Gullwing was a straight-up engineering case. Designed in the 1950s, its aerodynamic body and wing doors were just perfect for John. And for the engine, a 3.0-liter straight-six engine pushed out 215 horsepower and about 203 pound-feet of torque. Now you might think this isn't enough power or torque to roll the demon out, but come on, what 50s car gave out more than 200 horsepower? Anyway, the Gullwing was actually the fastest production car of its time, hitting 161 miles per hour, which was like a hurricane back in the 50s. Paired with its 4-speed manual transmission, the 300 SL handled way too beautifully, especially since its lightweight tubular frame made it feel like a race car on the streets of 3rd Avenue. Now, compared to supercars we've got today, the 300 SL might seem a bit too crazy about price. Take a wild guess. 1.5 million bucks. In fact, a Gullwing today could cost more than twice that price, going as high as $3.2 million. Some wild price for a 50s car. Do you know that John owns a car whose design was inspired by a real shark? Well, the 1963 Corvette Stingray took its design from a mako shark that designer Bill Mitchell had caught while fishing. Even crazier is that when the legendary split window coupe feature for this car was introduced, it sparked an issue between Mitchell and engineer Zora Arkus-Duntov, the two brains behind its design. Now, beneath that split window design sits a 5.4-liter V8 engine so powerful it produces 360 horsepower and 352 pound-feet of torque. On speed, it is able to hit 150 miles per hour, all while looking like a futuristic concept vehicle. And believe me, speed wasn't the only special thing about the C2 Stingray. The handling was really unhinged, and its lightweight fiberglass body and fully independent suspension helped the car race a lot easier than normal. Like, come on, every American man fell in love with this car. Now, the '63 Corvette was the first to offer a fixed-roof coupe, and its bold split rear window was a beautiful piece. Designer Bill Mitchell was obsessed with it, but engineer Zora Arkus-Duntov, nope, he hated it. To him, it was a nightmare for visibility, more style than substance. The debate lasted for almost a year. And by 1964, General Motors sided with Zora and scrapped the split window for a single-piece rear glass. Inside, the felt like a fighter jet cockpit, something Travolta would love. With a wraparound dashboard, deep-set gauges, and a 3-spoke steering wheel in a race car style, even at a stoplight. And those hidden pop-up headlights, pure drama. At night, they flipped open like the eyes of a predator, something Bill Mitchell loved. Add in other tech like a 4-speed manual transmission, knock-off aluminum wheels, and a side exit exhaust that spit fire, and voila! How much is a C2 Stingray worth today? Well, depending on the model and condition, you might be looking at anywhere between $100,000 and $250,000. For Travolta's, well, let's say around $400,000. Let's do one more car before we move to John Travolta's planes. Now, while some cars are cool and fast, the Porsche 911 is just another breed of vehicles. You see, in the mid-90s, Porsche wanted to dominate GT racing. Actually, everyone wanted to. But strict regulations meant they had to sell a road-going version of their race car. So Porsche decided to unleash a demon, the 993 GT2, a barely tamed car with rear-wheel drive, a twin-turbocharged flat-six pushing over 400 horsepower, and massive bolt-on fender flares. Oh, and it had no traction control, nothing to stop it. P.S. The GT2 was so wild it got nicknamed the Widow Maker. Apparently, if you weren't a skilled driver, it would happily take you to your grave. Now, what exactly makes this car so special? Well, it's the last air-cooled Porsche 911 ever made. The 993, built between 1994 and 1998, marked the end of an era for Porsche, and for many it was the best 911 ever. For engine, the Porsche 911 uses a 3.6-liter flat-six engine that delivers up to 282 horsepower and 250 pound-feet of torque. With this, it is able to hit 60 miles an hour in just 4.7 seconds, maxing out at 168 on the speedometer. With its rear engine layout, perfectly balanced handling, and 6-speed manual transmission, this thing drives like an extension of your own body. Reminds me of Dr. Octopus from the Amazing Spider-Man movie. Inside, the Porsche 911 wasn't too bad. The 5-gauge instrument cluster was a work of art with the massive tachometer front and center. Apparently, RPMs matter more than speed in Porsches. The thick-rimmed 3-spoke steering wheel also went easy with every swerve, and the short throw shifter made gear changing feel more mechanical. High-end models of this car came with leather everywhere, while hardcore versions like the GT2 cut down luxuries to save weight, having no rear seats and almost no sound deadening. As for monetary value, a well-maintained Porsche 911 is worth between $150,000 and $250,000, with rare forms like the Turbo S going for over $550,000. Now off to his mini harbor. Before John Travolta had an entire runway outside his house, he was something of an aviation fanatic. And, when you love planes as much as he does, a regular private jet just isn't enough. So what did he do? Well, meet John Travolta's full-sized commercial airliner, the Boeing 707-138B. Okay, pause. Owning a private jet is crazy on its own. How do you even own a Boeing 707? Trust me, it's not just paperwork. Built for long-haul flights, the 707 had 4 Pratt & Whitney JT3D-3B turbofan engines, each one pushing out 18,000 pounds of thrust. That gave this beast a rolling top speed of 621 miles per hour and a range of over 5,700 miles. While airlines use it to fly passengers across the world, Travolta turned it into his own private villa on turbo engines. Paired with a fully customized interior, this thing isn't a cramped commercial plane anymore. Nope. Instead of economy seats, it got plush leather lounges, a private bedroom, and more space than Taylor Swift's penthouse. It's basically a 5-star hotel that can cruise at 35,000 feet without a single layover. Compared to your usual private jet, the Boeing 707 is on a different level. Oh, and Travolta flies it himself. Yep, he's a certified pilot with type ratings for massive airliners, meaning when it's time to take off, he doesn't need a crew. So how much does a Boeing 707-138B cost? Well, if you wanted one today, you'd be looking at around $5 million. But that's just the starting price. Keeping it in the air is a whole different story. This thing burns through 1,200 gallons of fuel per hour, meaning a single long-haul flight could cost over $50,000 just in fuel. P.S. We haven't even talked about maintenance money. owning a Boeing 707 is one thing, but sometimes even John Travolta needs something a little more practical. By practical, I mean owning a Bombardier Challenger 601. To be honest, the Challenger 601 was already one of the most advanced private jets of its time. Built in the 1980s and 1990s, it came with two General Electric CF34 turbofan engines, each one pumping out 9,220 pounds of thrust. That gave this bad boy a top speed of around 528 miles per hour and a range of over 3,800 miles. Enough to fly from Los Angeles to New York without needing to refuel every time. Inside, there's gorgeous leather seating, a fully stocked bar, and enough room to stretch out like you're in a villa. Since it's a lot smaller than his Boeing 707, it can land at private airports and smaller runways, which would prove useful for quick, last-minute flights. As for price, a brand new Bombardier Challenger costs around $20 million, but a well-maintained model can go for $3 million to $5 million today. Sounds like a steal compared to his Boeing 707, but yeah, it still burns over 310 gallons of fuel per hour. Now that we've seen John Travolta's massive airliner and Bombardier, let's talk about something smaller, his Eclipse 500. Just to tell you how small it is, you could fit about 50 Eclipse 500s in one Boeing 707, and just about 5 to 6 of it in a Bombardier Challenger. Anyway, while the Eclipse 500 has a very funny size, it is actually built to be a speed god. Unlike the fuel-guzzling giants in Travolta's collection, this one is powered by two Pratt & Whitney PW610F turbofan engines, each one producing just 900 pounds of thrust, small but enough to fly the Eclipse at a top speed of 430 miles per hour, and fly over 1,100 miles on a single tank. Using a modern, high-tech cockpit, the Eclipse 500 is designed to be easy to fly, making it a favorite among most private pilots. The interior is not a flying palace like the Boeing 707, but for a small jet, it's still really neat, especially with its premium leather seats, large windows, and leg space. Now compared to the rest of his collection, the Eclipse 500 is definitely the most practical, being able to land on tiny runways, fit into smaller airports, and run on a low-maintenance budget. And of course, Travolta flies this one himself too. Well, when it first launched, the Eclipse 500 was supposed to be a really affordable jet with prices around $2 million. Today, a used one can go for as low as $1 million, making it one of the cheapest jets you could own. And finally, the Dassault Falcon 900. This same plane is owned by a good number of billionaires, world leaders, and elite business moguls, including the likes of Alan Jackson, Sir Fred Goodwin, and Nicolas Maduro. So let's talk about this one. Unlike most private jets, the Falcon 900 flies on three Honeywell TFE73160 turbofan engines, each one producing 5,000 pounds of thrust and amounting up to 15,000 pounds on push. That extra engine makes a big difference, as it gives the Falcon 900 a top speed of 667 miles per hour and a sickening range over 4,500 miles. When compared to his Boeing 707, the Falcon 900 is much more interesting, at least to me, and of course faster and far more fuel efficient. It burns around 260 gallons of fuel per hour, which might not seem a lot until you think about 1,200 gallons per hour the Boeing 707 burns. On the inside, John Travolta's Falcon 900 is pretty much a flying 5-star hotel. Let's add a 6th star for its beauty. Inside, there are full leather recliners, polished wood finishes, a bar with every beer you'd ever want, and even a private bedroom. Since it is built to fly long distances, every spot is designed to provide enough relaxation for a good dream. Price-wise, a brand new Falcon 900 is worth around $45 million, almost 9 times the price of his Boeing 707. If you want to go for a used but well-maintained one, you might be looking at $8 million to $15 million bucks. Let's end this video with a fun fact. Do you know that the Dassault Falcon 900 can still fly properly even after one engine fails? Well, take your time to think about that. It is almost the safest jet ever made. So if you like this, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so we can update you on all our upcoming content. Also, comment what celebrity car collection you want us to do next. We'll catch you in the next video.